Hi, so in this video, this is like my pre-Egypt sort of video because I have been trying to, read and to listen to different like lectures and stuff about Egypt and about the pyramids and things over the past couple of days, and just gaining so much like information about it as I can and sort of making my own kind of concept, but not like too restricting my way of perception about the pyramids and the meanings and the reasons to why they were built or how they were built and stuff. Because I have always, when I was a kid, I used to read these National Geographic magazines because my uncle, he always took them to my dad, and my dad, he always said like, okay, you shouldn't read those fashion magazines, you should read these National Geographic magazines. And I for a long period of time I was reading those magazines, like they were so interesting, and so actually one book that I bought last year, actually last summer, because I bought a lot of books last summer, that I was reading while I was doing a course about the Quran, like an introductional course on university in Sweden about the Quran. And I bought like a lot of books that was, like religious. I bought the Hindu type of scriptures. I bought some books about the Buddhism and some books about Christianity. I got a lot of books, and just for my free time, to sort of read. And then I actually have been able to use some of those books as well when I've been doing some studies in the university. But now, yesterday, I sort of started to dive into this book, and I have sort of, I don't know how I should say that I have been reading this book. I have sort of scrolled through the entire book, but I haven't read everything, But this one is by Graham Hancock, and it's called the Maggie. I'm just gonna show the title because my English, it can sort of be a little bit mixed. Magicans, I don't know how to say it, of the Gods, and the sequel to the international bestseller Fingerprints of the Gods. And this book is very interesting. Now, when it comes to like understanding what went on about, how those pyramids in Giza and stuff were like constructed, there are so many theories and there are so many like even ideological type of underlying historical like descriptions about them, because for some reason I think there has been a tendency to sort of try and explain historical events by relying on those pyramids, and sort of even drawing attention to the pyramids, and in order to not focus on other historical sites across the entire world, and especially to sort of make a more like dividing focus on historical events, because there is no like, this is like out there, there is this whole range of pyramids and like huge humongous historical like archaeological structures across the entire world. There is in Japan, there is like in Turkey, there is in Egypt, there is in South America, somewhere in the Indonesia and so forth. And all of these buildings and constructions and stuff, they sort of, there is a lot of these resemblance like of similarity, and there is also these pyramidical type of structures that are situated across different sites across the earth, and when people take these different like structures and stuff and start to sort of investigate only them as some form of local phenomena, and not putting them into this whole more holistic perspective, it sort of is taking away a lot of that actual significance of the pyramids, I think, because the pyramids are not like local phenomena, they are like something that is going on the entire earth, and that is putting it into much wider phenomena than just being a local phenomena. And especially when you're looking at how they might be, the fact that they might be linked together and might even be built or constructed with the same ideological motives and, like, you know, aims or whatever, by the same group of whoever has been thinking, you know, and making these constructions, you know, that it is the same source. And that is kind of significant, you know, rather than thinking that, you know, there is just an accident that all these structures are constructed in the same type of way. I don't think so, because if you're thinking today, there's very few people who would even get the idea of building a pyramid, you know, of this size and effort and energy and everything. And I think most people wouldn't even be able to construct something like this, you know, because it's not just how huge these constructions are, it is also how they are positioned, aligned with different, you know, stars out in the universe, how they are positioned with the sun and the moon and the earth and different, you know, like astronomical phenomena, and, you know, and how they are sort of measured. There are very, like, a lot of mathematical formulas that goes into these constructions, and I'm not even gonna go into half of it because I am not mathematical type person, you know, I don't know everything about it. And that also shows the fact that we people today don't know even half of what is actually going on with this pyramid, why they were constructed in the first place, and all of the formulas and stuff that has been found in the pyramids and these ancient type of constructions, they have actually been, you know, recently discovered by a lot of technological stuff that we're using today, but they wasn't understood until quite recently, you know. And that also shows the fact that if someone was constructing something very accidentally very long time ago and had all these smartness, like all these knowledge and like astronomical stars and measurements, like packed into the same constructions, they must have been kind of very smart and knowledgeable and had some form of wisdom, and they cannot have been as stupid as I am today, you know. They must have been quite smart, you know. So that just shows how significant these pyramids are. And I am shocked about this because I'm actually gonna be going to the pyramids end of this week, and I am like, whoa, okay. I had no intention of going there. This is where, like, I'm just like in awe of the fact that I will be going there. Like, it's amazing. But this book, if you have not heard about Graham Hancock, he has been doing some investigation, and he's not the conventional type of researcher or scientist, you know. He's sort of having a concept of, okay, what if? And he also is not, because I will be honest, like, I have studied now, you know, I'm doing my master, I'm doing my second bachelor degree. I know some parts of the scientific field, and I never really feel that science is giving off everything, you know. Science is a form of tradition that is trying to extract knowledge from something that is, you know, out here, and that we are trying to understand, but we don't know the borders of what's out here and what the knowledge of those, like, what is the borders of actual knowledge. We don't know that, you know. And science is a form of tradition. It is resting on philosophical assumptions, it's resting on, you know, ideological, you know, factors and stuff. And there's like all these things that making up science as a whole foundation for where knowledge can be, you know, sort of extracted and pulled apart and taken into different concepts, you know. And it is occurring in different timings, different historical settings, and by different people, you know. And as you know, with the brain and the individual ways of conceptualizing and understanding the world, everything that I say now is words that I try to communicate something with, but whatever I say, it is also a product of the fact of my previous experience, this present moment, what I'm sort of, my way of understanding of things. It's not like the ultimate way of probably communicating what I'm trying to communicate now, but this is the way I can communicate, you know. And one interesting thing about the pyramids in particular is the way that they are communicating to people today, you know, because they don't have a language in the way that they are, you know, humanly speaking in some, you know, sound or something. We don't know, I don't know if there's some vibration, you know, that going on inside of the pyramids, or if there's some sun rays that maybe, I don't know, goes into the pyramids and making some vibrations and stuff. But they are communicating in one way by the mathematical formulas that are put into these constructions, and for example how they are measuring the center of the earth to the surface and all these things. And even there's some Sphinx. I don't know, like for us in the now time, Sphinx doesn't, you know, it doesn't ring any bells, except that there is something next to the pyramids that is called a Sphinx. But apparently this Graham Hancock, he has actually taken a photo standing on the back of the Sphinx and sort of taking a photo or something of the, you know, what's going on, what can the Sphinx see, what is right above the Sphinx in different, like throughout the year. And during the spring equinox, when the sun is positioned on a certain place on the sky in relation to the earth and all other planetary planets in the universe or in this whole galaxy or whatever, the Sphinx, this little thing here, is actually having the head right beneath that spring equinox. And what is also interesting is that the sun, it makes it turns around or whatever going on, you know, in relation to the earth. But behind the sun, throughout history and time, there's like different stars that are positioned right behind the sun, you know. But the Sphinx is up until today positioned, so it will have the sun radiating right at it above its head, and then the stars behind the sun itself is sort of changing over time, you know. And also the fact that the pyramid, I mean, you can go into all the mathematical science and stuff, like how these different corners of the pyramid is positioned in east, west, you know, south and north and stuff, and how it is positioned in some other stuff and in relation to stars in the universe and all types of things. And that is kind of advanced. I mean, you need to be having some conceptions about what does these planets and stuff mean in relation to us here on Earth, in order to make something that is so well, you know, pulling in all that information into one construction that looks like a pyramid, and with the measurements and the like sizes and things that it actually has. And a pyramid, as you understand, it is not speaking our language, you know, it doesn't speak English or anything. But if you are able to comprehend these type of mathematical formulas, you can get quite a lot of information out of the pyramid or the Sphinx or whatever, you know. And it's not only to focus on these things. And I want to say one thing, because for the longest of time when I grew up, I thought that the pyramid was a form of graveyard, you know, that they were burying people inside of the pyramid, and that was the reason for the construction. I didn't think about the mathematical formulas, and there has been people saying, oh, okay, whatever, if it's pointing in this or that direction, it's just a coincidence. You know, no one builds a coincidence this size and with this type of form of measurements. No one, unless you know those measurements and stuff. And in order for someone to, you know, build something like this to keep, you know, as a form of grave, you would be very, very, very egoistic. And I think that is one way that some people who are scientists want to view this. They want to enforce this concept that the people who were buried inside of the pyramid, they were very egoistic people, because they wanted to have such a huge monument in order to, like, for their bodies to be resting in after they have passed away. I don't think that is the case at all. I think that is more like a coincidence. This might was understood to be a place where the soul or whatever could sort of have some, I don't know, continual journey or whatever. But I don't think that is the reason for their construction at all, you know. Egoism is something we are facing more like today, I would say, but I don't think it was the reason for the pyramids. And also the fact that there is like all these other monuments across the earth. And I think that one problem is that people trying to draw too much attention to only like separate these monuments and look at them in a way that is not really connecting to all of these different ones. And this book you can also find on YouTube. Graham Hancock, he makes some really interesting talks and stuff, and he's sort of also, he has a new book actually. He published a book that is called America Before, and I'm not gonna go into that, what he talks about, but I think you definitely should look into it, because it gives kind of a, it's shifting the human history, if that is the case, you know, and it even is affecting us up until today. That's all I'm going to go into here, you know, and it also is connecting to why these pyramids were potentially constructed, you know. But with anything that has been constructed for a very long time ago, it's very hard for us who are living now to actually look back, apply our concepts and theories, and be very materialistic and just look at this as a form of object. I think that at the end of the day, I don't know what values and ideological types of ideas people who built these constructions had back then. But I think they were very, very different than what we now today sort of have as values and stuff, because we don't build pyramids and we have not this whole kind of way of doing things as they did, you know. And especially the fact that there are pyramids across the entire world. If there was someone building all these pyramids, they probably must have had the same concept, you know, same way of thinking in a sense. So either it was a small group of something building all these things, or maybe there was something like a big thing, you know, this was the way of thinking, you know. And that is also something that Graham Hancock is sort of addressing, that, you know, I'm not going to speak like of what he say, because he speaks very well for himself, you know, but just after reading this, you know, it's like, you know, probably there must have been something that was kind of advanced to this level, but also the fact that these ideas and stuff were spread across the entire world, it kind of tells a story of itself, that this was a civilization that was kind of advanced, not in the way that we call ourselves advanced, because I'm not advanced at all. I don't know about where is the star signs situated, where are the stars in the sky situated. I don't know about that, you know. I don't know how far is the, like, the center of the earth to the surface, but these people knew about these things, and they obviously thought that it was important, because why would they construct these things with all these measurements? I mean, when people today, if you think about art and like statues and stuff today, and people are constructing something, the last thing often is that these things are in any way sort of connecting the sky to these statues and stuff. I mean, people are trying to communicate something with the things they are building and doing, and sort of not always by intention, you know, but everything has some information, whether it is an intention or non-intention, you know. And all this information speaks about something, you know. And the fact that a lot of statues and stuff that are built today is very, you know, narrowed to the culture of the space of where that is constructed, you know. It doesn't have any connection to the universe, it doesn't have any connection to the center of the earth, it doesn't have any connection to the other side of the planet often. It is very like situated at whatever the person is sort of doing, you know. I don't know if that makes sense, but it doesn't draw the sky down to the statue that they are trying to build, you know. Not even the tallest tower today, I think, is constructed. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have been inside of Burj Khalifa in Dubai, which is, I think, still 2019, I think it's still the tallest tower in the world. I have been inside there but I don't think that the construction itself has some measurements constructed into its construction that is referring to the size of the earth or to the stars that are like positioned on the sky in relation to the earth or like to the moon and stuff. I just think it's a tall tower that is out wiping any other tall tower. That's what I think, you know, like it's the tallest tower in the world. But it might be some kind of measurements and stuff that are built into the Burj Khalifa as well. But in relation to the pyramids, they are definitely holding a lot of information, and I don't think that you constructing something like this and having so much information in it and it is just an accident, you know. I think it's more like, you know, obviously after a while different generations come and go, they adding their own sort of concepts and understanding of these you know, construction, and they also adding different what is it called, like functions of these buildings, you know, such as a grave, place to bury someone, you know, or like to keep them after they have passed away. That might be one way of using these pyramids, you know. But the ones that constructed them, they obviously had some intention, and then other people have applied other types of meanings, and we do this still today. Science applied their meaning to these constructions and stuff, and it doesn't mean it is the same you know, type of ideas and stuff that the people who were building them had. Science is its own ideological and sort of philosophical system, and it only is trying to understand something based on, you know, it has its own objectives and stuff, you know, so it's not like neutral, you know. The knowledge that we have today is not neutral, and that's important to know. So if you go to university, whatever you learn, it's not a neutral science. There is some background, you know, incentive to why you're learning it. And that's something you will understand after being in the university for a while, and you will sort of start to distinguish these ideas and stuff. Why do we learn this, and why is this pronounced in this way, and blah blah. But to actually capture what these people who built these pyramids and stuff were thinking is probably one of the hardest things, you know, to actually get to, you know. We can only understand these things by sort of measuring them and using the visible, like the eye and stuff, you know, to sort of get a sense for what they were about. So I'm going to make one part 2, because this video is otherwise going to be way too long.